What's your favorite scary movie? Now that it's Halloween, I thought it would be a perfect time for me to drop my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. And before I start, this is going to be a very unconventional list. There are a lot of movies that a lot of people don't consider horror. Some people get really gatekeepy about the term horror. I am extremely inclusive with horror, so there are a lot of movies that I will include under the horror umbrella that you might not necessarily think are horror and just call thrillers, and I find them to be both. So with that being said, I have several honorable mentions I want to talk about. First up is Scream. Scream is my favorite slasher movie of all time. It started my favorite horror franchise of all time. Sidney Prescott is one of my favorite characters and my favorite final girl of all time. The killer reveals are great. It's super clever and funny, but also remaining intense and thrilling with twists and turns throughout. So endlessly entertaining. Scream is awesome. A Quiet Place 1 and 2 I find to be extremely effective monster movies. They have some of the coolest creature designs I've ever seen. They're very atmospheric, very thrilling. I love the idea of not being able to talk, and if someone makes any noise, these creatures will find you. There's great character development. Emily Blunt is awesome in these movies. The kids are awesome. John Krasinski directs the hell out of them. Quiet Place 1 and 2 are great. Jacob's Ladder is, to me, trippy done right, and ambiguous ending done right. Tim Robbins is awesome in the lead, and I've only seen it once, but I remember just being in a trance from start to finish and loving every second of it, being on the edge of my seat, wondering what the hell is going on. Many surprises and scares and shocks throughout. Dr. Sleep, I thought, was an extremely worthy follow-up to the original The Shining, which you may or may not see in my top 10. I really love how it expands the lore and shows us, how The Shine works a lot more. Rose the Hat is a great villain, and her group of Shine Eaters, I thought she was absolutely terrifying. There are some terrifying scenes in this movie, like the baseball kid scene. I still think about that all the time. I love the exploration of Danny Torrance and alcoholism and generational trauma, and Ewan McGregor does an awesome job in the role. I think the girl in the movie was awesome as well. Dr. Sleep was a wonderful surprise. Jaws is a classic for a reason, almost made my top 10, but not quite. It is very well directed. The character development is incredible. I love the dynamic between the three characters. They all have distinct personalities that bounce off each other, and the movie builds tension really well. A lot of the kills are really good, mainly because you can't see the shark. This is a masterclass in less is more, and Spielberg knocked it out of the park with this movie. I didn't fully appreciate it until I rewatched it on IMAX recently. And my final honorable mention is going to be Fallen. This one is a very underrated supernatural psychological thriller. If you haven't seen it, it's from the director of Primal Fear, which is one of my favorite courtroom drama crime thrillers. Fallen is great. It's one of my favorite Denzel movies. It's probably his most well-rounded and complex and fleshed out character. He has a really good arc in this movie, and there are multiple twists and turns here that I think are all good, and you kind of slowly start to put the pieces together as to what's going on, and then when certain things are revealed, you're like, holy shit. There are scenes that give me chills in this movie. I don't want to say too much about it, but I really, if you like supernatural psychological thrillers, I would check this one out. It is really well done. Kicking off the top 10 is going to be The Silence of the Lambs. This movie is incredibly effective, mainly because of Anthony Hopkins' performance as Hannibal Lecter. One of the best and creepiest performances of all time. He makes this movie what it is. You take him out of the movie, it's not nearly as good. The interactions with him and Jodie Foster's character, Clarice, are incredible. Some of the most memorable scenes and lines of dialogue in any movie ever. I don't love the Buffalo Bill stuff quite as much as the Hannibal Lecter interactions, but it's still pretty good and interesting, and I like Jodie Foster going on this journey to try to figure out, what's going on there and try to find Buffalo Bill with the help of Hannibal Lecter. I think this one is definitely very effective. Number 9 is going to be The Sixth Sense. This movie is very creepy and very effective, and it is not just a one-trick pony. The movie is certainly elevated by the twist, and that's what it's known for, and that certainly makes it better and more memorable. But I think the rest of the movie is very well done as well. I love the exploration of characters, both Bruce Willis's character and Haley Joel Osment. There's some really good dialogue between them, and they both have really good character arcs, and there's some creepy moments throughout the movie, not just the ending. There's a lot of other memorable stuff to me, like the talk between Haley Joel Osment and his mom about Toni Collette's mom, and Toni Collette is great in this movie as well. The part with I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen it, but the part with the soup, and I'll just leave it at that. That gives me chills every time I watch it. I think The Sixth Sense, it certainly loses a little bit on rewatch, but also you can watch it and kind of pick things up, and it starts to make more sense. So Sixth Sense is very, very good. Number 9. Number 8 is going to be one of several sci-fi horror movies on this list, and that is Predator. I absolutely love the first Predator. I love that you take this group of badass, buff soldiers that are really good at what they do, and they take out an entire guerrilla camp early in the movie. You feel like they're invincible, and they're completely powerless against this supernatural alien creature that you can't see from another planet. The Predator is one of the coolest aliens, one of the coolest creatures ever put to screen. Is really well designed. I like the way it operates. I like the technology it has. And the fact that you can't see it makes it super scary. Watching this movie for the first time without seeing any of the other ones or without knowing what's going on is really, really scary, because you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, this thing like grabs Hawkins out of nowhere. You only see like this little shape moving. That is horrifying. You slowly see what it looks like, and it's just picking these guys off one by one. It's a slasher movie. It's a sci-fi slasher movie. There's several of those, but I think this is honestly one of the better ones. I think this was incredibly effective, and I like how it ends with Arnold outsmarting the Predator, not beating it through brute force, which is something that is a trend in the Predator movies, and I like that they do that. It's just too powerful. You can't take it on with normal means, and I thought this one was extremely thrilling, especially once the killings started. The movie never lets up. Predator is number 8. Number 7 is going to be easily the oldest movie on this list, and that is Psycho. I was surprised how much I liked Psycho. I was like, I don't know, this movie from 1960, it's black and white. This is going to be like really dated. It's not. It ages incredibly well. A lot of acting from back then won't age very well at all, but I think Anthony Perkins' performance still holds up as one of the better performances of all time. I think he is incredible. I was spoiled on the twist before I watched it. I won't give it away to anyone who might not have necessarily seen it, but didn't make the movie any less effective and creepy. And the shower kill, even though it seems maybe a little bit cheesy by today's standards, is very effective, and that music is absolutely iconic. The ending is very well done. Psycho still works very, very well to this day. Number 6 is one that I'm guessing a lot of you haven't seen, and that's Frailty. Frailty is a super effective, super well done, super underrated. It's another kind of supernatural thriller that has many twists, and they all work. A lot of movies that have multiple twists, like one of them will work and then one won't, or like half of them will work and then the other twist will ruin it. These twists are all good, and each one build upon each other, and each one makes the previous twist better. It's basically about like Bill Paxton he says that he gets sent a message from God and enlists his kids to help him kill these people who God says are actually devils in human form. And we have the older son who is not going along with it at all. He's like, this is ridiculous, we're killing people. And you have the younger son who's all in, who totally believes in the cause and thinks it's all real. And you have the older son as an adult, played by Matthew McConaughey, telling this whole story to Powers Booth, who's a cop, and this kind of slowly reveals, what's going on, and multiple times completely changes how you view all of these events. So I don't want to say much else, but Frailty is an incredibly effective movie. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself the favor of watching it. Number 5 is going to be the aforementioned The Shining. I love Dr. Sleep. It was a great sequel, but I still think the original Shining is better. This is the best version of like a trippy, surreal horror movie, because it doesn't go too trippy to where like nothing makes any sense. It doesn't go too metaphorical. You can still track with it and understand why all of these things are happening within the context of the movie. And I feel like when a lot of movies try to replicate that, they don't really do it right and just go too far and just focus on being metaphorical instead of telling a good story. The Shining tells a very compelling story of a descent into madness, and you slowly see Jack Nicholson just changing into this person who goes from just kind of a weird guy to completely psycho and completely taken over by this hotel. And that slow descent is super well done. Like the bathroom scene is one of the creepiest scenes I've ever seen in any movie. Nicholson is incredible in the role. I think that the kid that plays Danny is great. I think that Shelley Duvall is great. I know a lot of people shit on her. I think her performance, fit the role perfectly. So much to love about this movie, and the ending is just ambiguous enough, but you also get a pretty good idea of what happened, and you see like the picture and like, whoa, okay, wow, this is crazy. This is one that like I can never take my eyes off the screen every time I watch it, and I would love to watch it every year if I had time. And this might be one I'm probably gonna at least watch it every other year. The Shining is one of the creepiest and most effective horror movies and just films in general of all time. Number 4 is going to be The Thing. This is my second sci-fi horror movie on this list. The Thing is incredible. It is so well done. It is a masterclass in both psychological horror and body horror, physical horror. It is the best of both worlds because you get the physical element with the thing itself, with all the gore and the practical effects. Practical effects are phenomenal. They still hold up to this day. I can't believe how they even came up with some of this stuff, and I can't believe how good they look. Some of those images haunt the hell out of me, and The Thing like doesn't have one kind of defined image. Like, you don't exactly know what it looks like. It looks different every time you see it, which makes it even creepier. Then you get the psychological element with the paranoia, no one trusting anyone because of the idea that the thing could be any of them, because it can look like anyone, and they all start to turn against each other, and it destroys them from within. Such a well done movie, and I have a theory on the ending. I don't want to necessarily say anything, but I'm pretty sure I know. There are multiple interpretations of the ending, but I'm pretty sure I know what it is. And it's the one that fits the best with the themes of paranoia. So I'll just leave it at that. The Thing is super thrilling and super intense and super visually creepy to look at. It gets everything right. Number 3, another sci-fi horror movie is going to be Aliens. The first Alien didn't make this list. I think it is very good. I am still much more of an Aliens person myself. It is more my speed. I think it has much better character development. Ripley is just as badass as she was in the first one, but gets much more fleshed out, and I love her mother-daughter relationship with Newt. I think that was very well done and very touching. I like her dynamic with Hicks as well. Those 3 characters make the movie, but Hudson is awesome as well, and he's kind of this guy that annoys you, but also has his heroic moments as well. Super good action. The aliens look very, very realistic and age super well. They are also super creepy because they can be like anywhere. They can be around the corner. They can sneak up on you. You can't hear them or see them. That's what makes them so terrifying. Like, you think about the scene with the proximity scanner. That was so well done. Like, what the hell is going on? Why can't we see these things? The action is so well done. The entire last hour of the movie is incredibly thrilling, and I love the ending. So much to love about this movie. Characters that you care about going on this thrilling adventure that has you invested and on the edge of your seat. I can't say enough good things about Aliens. Number 2 is going to be a movie that was my favorite movie of all time for a while, and I never considered it a horror movie until somebody recently made an argument, or multiple people. I've heard a lot of people argue that it's actually a slasher movie, and I took those arguments and I'm like, you know what? I think you're right. And that's the Terminator. The first Terminator movie, I am now convinced, is absolutely a slasher movie. I mean, you take this machine who is like unkillable and is stalking these people and trying to kill them. Sounds a lot like Jason. And as Cody Leach said, I can't take credit for this argument. It's definitely a Cody argument. He always says, like, hey, like for both Predator and for Terminator, it's like if he was walking around killing people with a machete instead of guns, it wouldn't even be an argument that it's a slasher movie. And I took that, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But the movie is very, very well done. Not only is it super intense and thrilling and never lets up, I mean, the Terminator is on their ass from start to finish, and you start to feel like, man, how the hell are they going to defeat this thing? This is a perfect role for Arnold, and he actually put a lot into it with like the movements and stuff, and how he doesn't like look at the gun when he loads it. Like, he put more into it than you'd expect. And then you also get the human side, which has incredible character development and a great relationship between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. The movie is a romance story. It's a love story at its heart, and it is super well done. It has one of the most important and most well done sex scenes in any movie ever. Like, it is actually super integral to the plot, and it's beautiful, and I love their relationship, and their performances are excellent by Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn. The action is great. Effects don't hold up super well just in a couple shots, but it's really hard to fault the movie for that. They were working with what they had. Cameron did an incredible job with this, and that's why he got a much bigger budget for T2. But that's definitely not a horror movie. This one, I'd say, is very much a slasher movie, and it's one that I just can't get enough of. It does everything right. The Terminator is number 2. But if you know me well, and if you have seen one of my most recent videos, you know that my number 1 is going to be Seven. Seven is my favorite horror movie of all time. It is my favorite movie of all time, period. I can't think of anything wrong with Seven. It has some of the best character development I've ever seen with David Mills and Somerset, even Tracy, who isn't even in that much of the movie. Very well fleshed out characters with different ideologies and perspectives, which makes for some really interesting conversations. The dialogue is great. The kills are super unique, and you don't even see them. You just sometimes see the aftermath, which reinforces the idea of less is more, like I talked about with Jaws. It's done super well, and this movie leaves a lot of the stuff up to your imagination, and that is almost scarier in my mind because there's no limits to what your imagination can come up with. And the score is incredible. It just further reinforces the feeling of dread and doom and bleakness that is present throughout the entire movie. And then you get the ending, which is what really sets the movie apart. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm sure there's probably some of you that haven't, but one of the most shocking endings of any movie ever, and it has stayed with me ever since I've seen it. The first time I watched it, I was stuck. I didn't want to get out of my seat. My jaw was on the floor as the credits rolled, and after that, I was in total shock, and no movie has ever given me that experience. I doubt it'll ever be replicated. Seven has left an impression on me from the very first time I saw it, and I think it is basically a perfect movie, which I don't really believe in. So, number 1, favorite horror movie and movie ever is Seven. So there you have it, guys. There's my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. I understand that a lot of these movies will not be horror to some of you. Some of you won't consider some of these movies horror. That's totally fine. But to me, they are horror. That's why I included them on this list. It's just my list. You know, we all have our own opinions, so drop yours below. What are some of your favorite horror movies? Let's start a conversation. If you like this video, hit the like button. Likes are super important for YouTube channels to help me grow my channel and put my videos out to more people. So do that if you enjoyed it. If you enjoy my content in general, subscribe, the notification bell to get notified when I post a video. And I got so much more cool stuff coming, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you soon.